principles of design. Design is not rocket science. It's just a couple of principles you have to keep in your mind before you see if something looks good or not. Okay. So let's start with how many principles do you think are there? There are more than enough. How many do you think are there? Seven. No, there are way more. Look at this. There's more than enough principles to go through, but then it's not very complicated. It's very basic stuff that you have to keep in mind when you are looking at something. You know something looks good, but you don't know why it looks good. That's what you have to keep in your mind. So let's start with the basic one, alignment. Alignment is how your design elements are arranged. You can have a page, all your elements can be left aligned, center aligned, right aligned. What looks good, what doesn't. So mostly when you look at books, everything is left aligned because it's easier to read. And for example, let's say, okay, you just look at this. What's the alignment here? The text is left aligned. Okay? Why is it left aligned? Because we are more used to reading books that way. The way we read is usually from left to right? So when you have left alignment, it's easier to go through the text than having it right aligned. Because if I had this right aligned, it'd be weird. The statement would start here and everything would be shifted right here. When you are aligning stuff, if it's a heading, keep it right aligned, it's okay. If it's text, throw the text out of the window, it sucks. Okay? If you have the text right aligned, it's not gonna look good. Okay? The alignment depends on what your design basically is. This is our basic left alignment that everybody has. Center alignment is okay. It's basically used for posters and stuff. So if you look at this, you look at something like this. This is center aligned. Okay? This is also fine. Keeping a poster left aligned keeps you distracted. Alignment depends on what you are designing. If it's a poster, keep it center. If it's like a post, keep it on left. Because then you have to read through it. When you have to read through something, you keep it left aligned. When you have to show attention to something, if it's something like a graphic or something, keep it center aligned because that's easier to go through. That's quicker to go through. Okay? That's alignment. Depends on what you're designing. You can have any type of alignment. You can have fun with alignments. It's very fun. Just try something. Just try a couple of things when Harini gives you the posters and stuff. Have fun with alignment. Visual hierarchy. What do you think I mean by visual hierarchy? Okay, when you look at something, there is stuff happening. There is actually stuff happening. For example, look at this poster. Visual hierarchy defines where your eyes go. So, your eyes immediately go to the heading when you look at this. Where next? Your eyes go here. Then go to the image. Then move to the text. Visual hierarchy is what you're going to look at first. Look at this image. This is what your hierarchy should look like. There should be a good enough title, a heading, then a subheading. The size matters. The title should be bigger than your subheading. If it's like this, man, this is bad. This is bad. And when you have to decide hierarchy for text, don't use your brains too much. Just go to Canva text. There's already presets of elements. Just pick and choose from those. Right? I'll give you an example. Guys, have you played Doom? Yeah? Look at this. The main title is bigger than everything else. So you look at the title first. Then you move to this guy because he's uplifted. Then you move to the eternal and then you move to this guy. And then you move to the background. That's what visual hierarchy is. You decide the hierarchy according to what you want people to pay attention to first. Your heading is the most important thing because it tells the user or tells the viewer exactly what your thing is. You look here, this is the name of the event. That's why I want this to be bigger than anything else. Then just describe what the event is. Then you can expect the image and then the description. This is your visual hierarchy. It's simple, nothing complicated. Contrast. If there was no contrast, everything will just be boring. Everything needs a contrast. The texture is darker than the background. That's your contrast. If I had this in like a light yellow, instead of this colorful background image, all the stuff, you won't be able to see it, right? That's what contrast is. You have to pick and choose between colors. You have to decide what colors will go well with what will uplift your stuff. Like, I did this because I had a palette. I found I am very bad with colors, so I go online, I search for palettes, and they're right there. So they are palettes which usually have some kind of contrast in them. You can see this text better than anything else because it has a contrast in the background. If I had this in a very light color, would you be able to see it? No, not. It's just contrast. Just think about it. What looks good? Anything's fine. What is it? Difference in color, size, shape, highlight. Contrast doesn't have to be color. Can be shapes. Can be different types of shapes going along with each other. Can be different types of colors. Everything's fine. The same thing I was telling you. Look at the red here. It's not really highlighted. Look at the green there. That's basic contrast. You have to keep that in mind. If your contrast is bad, your design won't even be seen. Leave looking good. It won't even be seen on it. Look at this one. There is a very significant contrast with the background in the stairs. This is what contrast is. And that's not the only thing. If you look at the text boxes, they're more squarish, right? And the stairs are more into a circular format, and this is more into a circular format. So that's a contrast between shapes. You have majority circles and you're contrasting with squares. Not just the color. You can contrast with different kinds of shapes. These are some things you'll have to apply. This is not theory. Just keep these things in mind before you design something. Like in a while, Harini is gonna ask you to make posters for Robo Fiesta. Right? Just keep these things in mind when you're designing them. I'll share this PPT with you. Keep this as a reference. And just go through these principles once before you design something. It's not theory. Just look at the images once and see how the contrast works. Right? Repetition. Repetition is something like elements being repeated again and again. It's like, okay, if I had to create more cohesive design, I'm gonna, Ratna, you were in Anveshna, right? We use repetition quite a lot. We pick some elements and we repeated them again and again. Maybe you were there as well. So it's basically you have some elements and then you repeat them. It can be, okay, it's the same element, you can change the color multiple times. It's same two shapes that you repeat again and again and again and again. That's repetition. We use repetition because it feels more natural. It doesn't feel like this element is different. Okay. But right now, this poster doesn't really look cohesive. It's like the main heading is much different from the bottom. It's like split apart. When you use repetition, it's like you can blend stuff into it and then you can figure out this part can be included in this part. Doesn't feel like two different parts of a poster. Okay, so I'll show you an image. It's like it's the same two shapes in different colors and you're repeating them again and again. But if I did this, this just looks meh. This just looks like a 4th grader designed this. We can't do that. We have to keep it more cohesive and more, let's say, symmetric looking. Look at this. It's the same shape, just different colors overlapped over each other. This is the simplest kind of repetition. You can have it in multiple ways, but then you have to make sure you don't repeat it too many times. It'll look chaotic. The more chaotic your design, the more it'll suck. Okay. Shapes I won't bother much. Shapes is something that depends from design to design. Okay, like look at this poster and then look at this poster. The shape here depends on the type of text and the type of event that you're going for. They had square here, they had like a rhombus shape here. It depends on what type of thing you're designing for. If Harini asks you to make a letterhead, they'll have a more squarish format. And if she asks you to make a poster or something, they'll have a more random format depending on what event it is. Like if I ask you to make a poster for Canva design, Canva competition happens every year in every fest. If I ask you to make for that, you won't really go for something simple, right? You'll have to go for something more funky. But otherwise, if I ask you to go for a coding event or a thing, you'll go for a more squarish design, right? It has to look more professional, it has to look more coding here, but Canva has to be fun. So shapes depend on what you're designing for. Not really on what the design is, but what you're designing for. You have to keep that in mind. Okay? Why do you take their phones?
So that they don't use their
Balance. Okay, let's talk about balance. Balance is the most important thing. Okay. There are two types of balances. One is symmetric and one is asymmetric. Imagine balance being something like, okay, let's say, okay, look at my t-shirt. If you draw a line through here, there is equal number of elements on the left and to the right. Perfect? If I remove this black part, what will it look like? It look like something is weird. It's okay. Imagine like a springboard. Okay. If I remove this, all the design goes to the left. If I remove this part, everything goes to the right. It's like you have to balance what's there on both sides. That's symmetric. Symmetric is basically there's a line in the middle and there should be equal number of stuff on the left and to the right. This is very basic. Because if you look at people as well, you're attracted to people that have a more symmetrical face. Everybody likes stuff that's more symmetrical. If you can't really think of something, go for something symmetrical, place the same elements on the right and to the left, change colors a bit, and you'll have a good enough design to go for. Okay, and then there's asymmetrical. Asymmetrical is something, have you seen those picture collages? They don't really have the same amount of pictures on the left and to the right, but they still look like, this design works. How does that happen? So, okay. Look at this. It's the same shape to the left and to the right. That's why this works. And if I do this on a page, it doesn't really work. So when I tell you something asymmetrical works, imagine it's like balancing weights. So if I have a heavy element on the right of the thing, I'll put my text on the left. So it doesn't really look like everything is left aligned. I have to balance the weight. If too much stuff is on the left, I'll put the text on the right. If stuff on the right, I'll put it to the left. To balance it out, you have to think about what lines are going. Same symmetric text. It's the same element just flipped apart on the left and to the right. This is the whole cover I found. This stuff, if you cut it through the middle, the cover looks fine. If you cut it through the middle, it's the same amount of elements on the left and to the right. And it's very simple. It's very, very simple. Color. Most guys aren't good with color. I'll tell you that much. I've been corrected way too many times. But then, if you aren't good with colors, you should go with Canva. Canva has a separate color palette already designed. Just pick and choose from that. Keep flipping colors until you find the right choice. Girls, you have a better sense of color than guys do. That's kind of your superpower. Use that to your advantage. Guys, pick some color palette you like. You're gonna get corrected by some girl anyways. I've been screwed way too many times. Look at this. I can't really think of this much color. This has way too many. This is one single color palette, and this person probably flipped through too many color palettes before they chose this. All of this really works together. This is some party ka invitation, but all of this really works together. So you have to figure out, if you can't really think of colors, just go for a fixed color palette. If you're good with colors, try it on your own. Spacing. Spacing is the most underrated thing. Okay. When you look at something, you don't really look at the spacing. You look at what the elements are. But if I decided, I want this element spread throughout the background, will look fine. Will you be able to read this text? Right, huh? So you need spacing to create a more focus to what you're looking at. Okay, if I decided to put this background behind this as well, you won't really focus on this text. This is white spacing. What white spacing does is, it makes your design look cleaner and basically emphasizing on what you're supposed to read. Okay? Spacing is more important than you think. Spacing is more important than the elements you put in. Even if it's like a minimalistic design, You need good amount of spacing between the elements, otherwise it'll just look bad. Between your text as well. And one more thing, your typography is very, very important. Typography is the most important thing. Even if you just have plain text on it, and the text is looking cool, that's still good enough. Still good enough. Just raise your hands if you're in the design team. So okay, fine. Text me. I somehow scammed an educational account. I'll add you to it. You'll get access to Canva. If other people just want to design as well, just send your mail IDs to me. I'll add it. Look at this. This is a plain circle. It has good enough spacing around it, so you can focus on the element. This does not have enough spacing around it. This doesn't even have focus on the circle. Your circle is the most important element here, and you can't really focus on it because there's no spacing around it. Emphasis. Emphasis is something emphasis is like symmetry. That's one more logic you can use to make your design perfect, even if you can't think of any. Emphasis is just this much key. Everything around a particular element is just darker, and that element is highlighted. Imagine like a bulbs wala scenario, where I have like 100 bulbs on a page and only one of them is lit up. That's emphasis. That one bulb will catch your attention. Imagine if everything else in the background is grey. It's a black background and everything else is grey, and there's just one element that's like bright red. That's emphasis. So symmetry and emphasis are the two easiest ways to design. Okay? When you can't think of anything, go over these two. It's very simple. Just if it's like a coding thing, you keep like multiple computers in the background, just one computer has color. Simple. Did I think of it much? No, right? Just that easy. Look at this. It's multiple heads and one turned around and the colors changed. That's emphasis. That's simple. Proportion. Proportion is basically like it kind of relates to your visual hierarchy. Like some elements are supposed to be bigger than the others. It's not very complicated. It depends on what you're designing for. I'll show you an example. If the title is much smaller than the circles itself, won't it draw attention from the title? You have to make sure what's important has to be bigger, and the title spelling is wrong. I'm very much aware, but I can't help it. So what's important has to be bigger, and what's not really important has to be much smaller. Okay? Proportions have to be kept in mind. If you can't take care of proportions, look at this. I didn't choose this, I just found this. So look at the text here. The guy is the highlighted part here, and the text, this is the name of the guy. So this is bigger than all the subtext. This is more important than all the text around it. So it doesn't really matter if this part is small, but this is the part that's highlighted. The guy is highlighted. That's proportion. What's important stays bigger, what's not important stays smaller. Pattern. One more section where guys suck. Patterns is, same category. Pattern is something which is more of trial and error. You can try a pattern, suppose I found an image that has a big, very big pattern. I can just want to put it in my background, reduce transparency, and just have it there. But it should be a cohesive pattern. It should repeat after a while. It should not be like, there's something happening here, there's something else happening there. It won't be. It should be a pattern that repeats. Okay, look at the butterflies all the way. All the butterflies are repeating again and again. It should be something like that. Not something that there is a dragonfly here, there's some cockroach at the bottom. You can't have that. You need something that repeats after a while, and that should be consistent. That's a pattern. And you have to make sure your pattern does not overside your text probably. Just like your pattern should not be better than the text you're trying to show. Okay? Pattern should be repeated, not different. It should not be different. Yeah, I can't have really small shapes randomly appear in the middle, it look bad. It's not symmetrical. Keep symmetry in mind. It's not symmetrical, it won't look good. Have it repeated. Have the colors more consistent. Then it'll look good. Look at this. On digital screen it's not looking good, but when you have this printed out, the white really pops out. And this pattern really repeats. Look at the highs. There's a high here, there's a high here, there's a low here, low here, low here again. So it's like a wave, it's repeating again and again. You should have something like that. It's more consistent. You can't really have something random. Okay? Thinking of when you have a pattern, patterns look good, remember pattern look good. They are easier to implement. Go to Canva, just type patterns, you'll find many of them there. But pick one that's more consistent, right? Because they are basically a double-edged sword. They can either make it look very amazing or very, very bad. Okay? Movement. Oh. Movement is something that can generate kind of a very high dynamic. Movement is something I don't think you guys have seen much in design, but I'll show you with an example. Okay, this is fine, but look at this. What's happening here? Where does your eye look at? Okay, somebody tell me, where does your eye look at when you look at the design? Wheel. The wheel first, then you focus on the guy. Yeah? Then it's balanced out by the text. So when you have movement, you look at what it's going to point to and then you balance it out. So if I had to make lines on this design or where my eyes would go, it's basically like this. And then you point at the guy and then you look at the text. This is movement. You can generate movement by having pretty good elements, and movement is something that is amazing. You have to try movement, but you have to practice. Once you figure out movement, your posters are going to be out of the world. Trust me, once you figure out movement, anything you make is going to be amazing. But you also have to figure out balance. Like this is well balanced with the text. If I remove the text, this will just look weird. This is the guy is there, it's fine. The movement is towards him, but the text is balancing out whatever shift is there. Right now it's like this. If I remove the text, it's gonna feel like it's gonna fall apart. Imagine it like a springboard. If I don't have stuff balancing it out, it's just gonna fall apart. Like I explained the t-shirt wala thing, no? If this is my t-shirt wala area, if I remove this line, this is gonna feel like everything's falling to this side. You need stuff balancing out on both sides. Cool? Unity is similar. Unity is the common sense of whatever I'm putting on my poster really works together. Look at what's happening here. Unity is look at this text and look at this text. This combo works. If I had put something more formal here, would it work? It'll just look bad, right? Look at this element ka color and look at this color. It works. That's what unity is. You have to make sure that whatever you're putting together really comes together. Otherwise, what would this look like if I had a random? If this was some other random text and this was some other random text, would it look good? Even just changing the text. If I just change the color of this to red, would it look good? Unity is how different elements and different parts of your design really come together to make your complete design. That's unity. And unity is not something you can really mess around with. Unity has to work. You can work around with symmetry, you can work around with balance, you can't really work with unity. Unity has to happen. If unity does not happen, it's gone, basically. This is what's the example? Okay. Look at this. This is a magazine page. What is it? But it's a bit. Good. Okay. Somebody stand up and tell me why this works. This looks fine. Agree? Somebody tell me why.
Text is balancing the images.
Text is balancing the images. What else?
The date. The dates in order.
The dates in order. What else? Think in terms of unity.
The color scheme.
The color scheme. So everything here. First of all, everything balances out. There's a text here, there's a text here, there's a text here, there's a heavy image here, balancing it out. There is stuff happening here, there's stuff happening here. This square is balanced out by this square, this square is balanced out by this square. All the text ka format is the same. I can't really have some other text here, some other kind of text here. I can't change the style of the number here, style of the number here. It has to be the same throughout. That's unity. That's why everything works together. To be very honest, I can't really think of something like this. This is too chaotic even for me. But this is the best example of unity. This is the most extreme example of unity. There's so much stuff happening, but still everything works together. Why? Because everything's balanced out, and all the elements really go together with each other. That's what unity is. Variety. Now variety is you can't be monotone with your design. You can't be like black and white. You can't really do that. It's just look boring. You have to do something, make the text lift up, change the color somehow. You can't really make it monotone. You have to add some different kinds of shapes. You can't really have like 3 lines in the middle and design. Okay, no, you can't do that. You need to have variety, at least in colors, shapes, textures. Okay? Before you do anything, okay. What is it? Mixing design elements to create interest. Why it matters, keeps the viewers engaged and makes the design more dynamic. Doesn't keep it really static. Combine textures, shapes and sizes, balance variety with harmony. Okay. Okay, there is variety here. How is there variety here? Anyone? How is there variety here?
टेक्स्ट के 2 डिफरेंट कलर है.
हाँ, टेक्स्ट के 2 अलग कलर. What else? No, this is boring. Background is boring. The people are boring because they're black and white.
Text size.
Text size is different.
And background.
Now background is boring.
Color is contrast.
Color is contrast. There is variety here in forms of text. This is a different text. This is a different text. There is variation in the color of the text. This is a different text. That's variety in text. You don't have to really go LGBT while putting in variety, but then you have to make sure there is some kind of variety. You can't really have if I chose like Roboto as my text, I can't really have Roboto throughout. I need to change that kind of text for every single element I'm having. That should be different for your heading, that should be different for your subheading, that should be different for your content. When you're having colors, look at that previous color design. Look at this one. There is variety in colors here. There is variety in shapes here. Look at this part. There's a different shape here. 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 There is variety in shapes going around. But this still works together. Because it's like separated kind of elements that somehow work together. Okay? You can play around with variety. But initially, since most of you don't know how to design, I know a few of you do. But then still, initially don't play around with variety too much. Try it out. It won't really look good in the beginning, but you'll eventually get a sense of it. Like if you guys look around, there's literally design in everything. If you look at the seminar hall itself, if I draw a line through it, it's symmetric on both sides. My t-shirt, everything. Just have a design eye when you're looking at something. It'll make your designs much better. Okay? So that's it for now. Start designing. Okay? Arora is going to give you guys work. Keep these points in mind and share this PPT with you guys. When you have confusion, just refer to it once and then design. Sure? Yeah.